Dudes, where have you guys been for like the last 3 months? Where have I been? It's a great question. Something I've realized is I need to stay consistent on my sharing, otherwise I get so far behind I feel like I can't share anything in context anymore because I've gone through so much. I'm going to do my best to summarize it. This is going to be more of a rant and also what I've gone through and where I am at now, what I'm trying. All of you guys know this channel is all about any and everything, practice, information, discipline that can lead to a greater expansion of being, a higher expression of yourself, anything that helps with self-development and all around leads to more enjoyment in life. I'm all about health, wellness, feeling good, and releasing any inhibitions that are restricting our expression so we can have the most fun possible in this life. And I gotta say, damn, it has been a trial in this one. I feel that I've had a very dynamic experience because I've had some really amazing highs and gifts, and I've also really gotten my ass kicked many occasions. So it's been educational, and that is the beauty of life, is the contrast. And when we can learn to take these challenging situations and transmute them into fuel and to get a hold of this control tower and direct ourselves, we can really create something freaking awesome. And I apologize that I've been inhibited to share over the last few months. I've just had so much going on, and I feel I had a lot of stress at one point. I got behind on my sleep, then I had a lot of family in town, I had extra work, then I got injured, I wasn't able to train, and all of this compounded. I didn't meditate as much, and then I fell off of my consistent pattern. And even when I was consistent, I was in a place where I felt a little low on energy, like I had to move really slow to maintain what I was doing. And I didn't have the vibrancy, the vitality that I wanted, and I'm still working on it. I can't say I'm there yet, but I was putting all of this effort into this 23-hour-a-day fast, 1,500 calories, training, and whenever I had a small change in variables in my environment, my adaptation was not that good. I was living in such a clear, concise, logical, repetitive order that when variety and variables were thrown into it, I didn't like the way that I adapted. Basically, I had a super late night, ended up eating some bad food, wrecked my stomach, and that threw my sleep off, and then I was worn out, and I had, like I said, family coming in town and a lot of work on the farm all of a sudden, and it dropped me into a pattern where I was just low energy and experiencing depression again and a lot of hunger. And so I was decided it was a time to take a step back and reevaluate things. And whenever I do that, I tend to just drop my patterns. I tend to just act how I feel now. And a lot of that got me to eat outside of the window I was in. I can still say only a couple of occasions have I eaten before noon. But that's been a habitual thing for years for me. Intermittent fasting is definitely a beneficial practice for me. But I started to expand my window and stop counting calories, and something I've found that I know for sure, if I'm not training consistently, I don't feel very good. So I wrecked my elbow. It was almost like tennis elbow, just doing a lot of pull-ups because I was way into training, getting into good shape and habitually doing pull-ups. And I think you know, I broke my collarbone about 4 years ago now, and I broke my right wrist years ago, and I think there's some kind of imbalance in the way that I am holding my weight when I'm doing pull-ups and whatnot that is starting to cause me an injury in my elbow. So frustrating stuff. And then I not popped my hip, but had this reoccurring injury in my sacroiliac joint, which I'm dealing with now as well. So it was a lot of frustration, stress, work, family stuff, a lot of ancient stuff with my family, which has been extremely enlightening and beautiful to really go in deep with my parents and to learn more about myself, what I went through as a child, what my parents went through, because what they had programmed in them gets imprinted on you, And so, you know, we're all unraveling the mystery together. Needless to say, it's been highly educational. And, you know, there's a lot of value to me having to share this, to express it. I highly recommend doing the same thing, having your own channel and expressing what you're going through, because it really helps me to have to put it into words. That being said, writing, prayer, conscious thought are powerful practices to have to formulate feelings into words, to make them real. Writing is one of the best ways to do that, but I believe even just thinking and prayer is a powerful way to do that. Needless to say, I've gone through many phases in the last couple months trying to alter my diet and my patterns to create a state in myself to where the fasting is not an issue. I want to be able to just cruise through without the feeling or the hunger for food and have that energy, have that good sleep. Is that too much to ask, huh? Can't I just go Super Saiyan already? So, I've been playing a lot with my macros, playing a lot with fiber, probiotics, playing with different types of fat and different patterns of resting, sleep, training. Almost too much to catch up on, but I want to let you know where I'm at right now. I'm in a relaxed version of where I was. Most people here know me through the Almond Raw protocol when I shared that I had been experimenting with it, which I still am. But I've been experimenting with lifestyles and training and diet and fitness and meditation for about 12 years now, ever since my Kung Fu teacher showed me the whole world of self-healing, of meditation, of Ayurveda, of Chinese medicine, Qigong. So much got opened up to me then, and I've just been studying, reading, experimenting ever since then. I habitually study, formulate a lifestyle protocol, and then subject myself to it. And I've been doing that for almost 12 years now. And about almost 2 years ago, it was May, and May tends to be this month where I have a lot of energy. I'm like, all right, I'm going in for the whole month. I've got this plan, this protocol, I want to live by it. Whether it's a cleanse, like one year I lived on sprouts for a month straight, just different, you know, liquids for a month straight. I've done different intense lifestyle protocols, particularly that time of the year. So May was coming up, and I'd already adapted intermittent fasting to my lifestyle. I'd kind of picked that up from learning about the warrior diet 8 or 9 years ago. And it was really rare for me to eat before noon anyways, so my body had adapted to that level. And if you guys have seen that initial video where I shared about my experience with the Almond Raw protocol, I mentioned somebody named Kota Mitamura, because Almond Raw and Kota Mitamura are the two healthiest humans I've ever met. And when I meet somebody like that, I study them intensely because I want to figure out what it is they're doing, everything from their perception, their psychology of reality, the way they relate to the world, their diet, sleep patterns, training, all of that jazz. And I was lucky enough to get to live with Kota Mitamura for about 8 months, and I trained him in a lot of the physical aspects, and he showed me a lot about his diet and food, because he was a master of the food and his relation to just nature and diet. The guy was like, would make Bruce Lee jealous. He was just extremely lean, no excess on him, a very clear, clean, simple person, pure. And it was awesome to get to train him because he was definitely really lean, didn't have a lot of muscle mass on him whenever we first started training. And to see over an 8-month period doing everything from Kung Fu, just freestyle movement, to weight training, gymnastic rings, to see how he grew faster than I did. But one thing that always perplexed me about Kota is he ate so little. I never really ever saw him eat. I'd see him have like a small drink during the day or a handful of Mac nuts or something, and then he would eat super late in the evening before he went to sleep, which is like 10:30 or so, you know. And I had all these different ideas that were definitely against that at the time. So I'd consistently ask him, hey, what'd you eat today? What do you got there? And just learn from him what he was making. And he was a raw foodist. He ate mostly from the land here. And whenever we were training, he started adapting like protein smoothies, you know, vegan protein smoothies. But whenever he would have a smoothie compared to me, like I would have a protein smoothie, it's like this big old drink, right? You gotta get some protein. And he would have this small little, you know, 8-ounce drink. And that was basically his protocol. He may have something during the day, like a noni drink, noni and aloe, or a protein drink, or a handful of nuts. But basically it would be super light. And then in the evening, he'd eat a meal that was also light, that was raw, that when I look at it, when I break it down, it was ketogenic, basically, because he's not cooking anything. You're not getting a lot of carbs, eating a lot of greens off the land with spirulina and papaya in there, umboshi plum vinegar, and yeah, it was like dense, nutritious, raw, and basically ketogenic. A lot of avocado, coconut. So before May, I was actually I had formulated a Kota Mitamura protocol, and I was gonna get on that, and then I ran into almond stuff like 3 days before May started. So I just dove into that and took it all on and jumped in 100%. I gotta say, I didn't read it thoroughly because he eased into his protocol. I just jumped into all of it, minus the caloric restriction. I didn't try to do the caloric restriction right off the bat. And I can tell you that just witnessing Kota, he was definitely doing caloric restriction. And that is the main thing that I've learned from the almonds protocol, is the value of caloric restriction. That's something I didn't quite understand. That is the most proven, most potent longevity protocol that you can put to any life form so far tested and lengthen the lifespan as well as the health span. So that being said, I've seen that it's just been too much stress for me right now to maintain that 23-hour fast, 1,500 calories for more than a few months. I've gone 3.5 months, 3 months, 2.5 months, well, progressively longer each time, but I haven't been able to maintain it. I always fall off towards the end when there's just too much stress, and I can't manage that while I have so much going on. So I've kind of regressed or stepped back into more of a Kota Mitamura protocol, plus, you know, the advances that I've learned from all men, which are really getting your nutrition dialed, like having that breakfast, what you break your fast with, complete, having everything you need in it. That being said, 2 elements that I'm playing with as well are higher protein, higher fiber, and low carbs. I've experimented a lot with the fiber in the past, done a lot of research on that in the last few months, and I've made my own blend of soluble prebiotic fibers. These are fibers that we can't digest, so they really don't count as calories in the same sense of a carbohydrate. They have about 1.5 calories per gram as a carbohydrate. So I've been using those because they'll fill you up, they help lower your blood sugar, make you more insulin sensitive, and help diminish your hunger, bring satiation. So I love that when I'm trying to find out how to do a caloric restriction and long-term intermittent fasting. The higher protein, after reading a few studies about building muscle mass and lifespan, is also extremely satiating. Out of all of the macronutrients, protein is the most satiating. Now, I'd been avoiding protein to a large degree because protein restriction has been demonstrated to lengthen lifespan, and that's something I've learned from the almond protocol. Diving more into that because I'm interested in building mass and just finding out what is this like. I go through periods of insatiable hunger. Food cravings and addiction have been a big thing to me in my life. That's why I seek mastery in this realm. It's a perfect place to learn self-control, but that's a whole world because there can be all sorts of nutrient deficiencies you have that lead to your cravings. So it's been a full-on education to go through each macronutrient individually, learning about them, looking at my past, what I might have been deficient in, and trying to really build up that perfect sustenance, that perfect way of being that replenishes any kind of deficiency I may have had and can fuel me to the next level of growth. That being said, after some of the studies that I've read, one of the main ones that I read demonstrates that caloric restriction is the greatest most potent form of lifespan extension. Protein restriction can lengthen lifespan by it's like 30% or so, 30 or 40%. Caloric restriction can lengthen lifespan by like 60%. And the combination of the two has not demonstrated any extra lengthening of lifespan. So there's this amazing compilation of all of these caloric restriction studies they've done and the different macro volumes that they've done, and there's high protein, high carbs, all of it. There are still high protein, low calorie diets that get ridiculous lengths, full benefit from the... Well, I just learned if I touch the volume button on my phone, it turns off the camera. Says the screen went dark and I pressed it, and now I found that I have to try to figure out what I said after the end of that. This is an edit, by the way. Yeah, protein restriction. So I found protein restriction is not as potent of a tool or as necessary as long as you have the caloric restriction there. At least right now, that's how it seems with the evidence. So I've gone high protein, super satiating. It's like 150 grams of protein a day is what I'm doing, and it feels good. It's definitely filling. I definitely maintain mass more. I can keep my weight higher more easily. That being said, I lost a whole chunk whenever I pressed that damn button. So another thing that I've been getting into is the fatty acids, which is something that I haven't really had clarification with working with Amen. He just told me to avoid saturated fat. The first things he stated were cholesterol and heart disease, which I hadn't found anything supporting that. He told me to go more towards monosaturated fat because it's less likely to be oxidized and lead to lipo-oxidative end products, which are kind of like ages but the fat version. Oxidation following the ROS theory of aging, the radical oxidative species theory that diminishes our health over time due to cellular damage. So, but I've been diving in a lot into learning about the polyunsaturated fatty acids. There are 2 fatty acids they call essential because we cannot make them. They're also precursors to very valuable fatty acids that our body can create with them. They are linoleic acid, omega-6, and alpha-linoleic acid. And alpha-linoleic acid, omega-3. Different ratios of them seem to give different results. The ratio, based on the studies that I've found that I'm pursuing, is a 3:2, omega-3 to omega-6, and I've been making that into like a flax bread I'm experimenting with, because it's actually good to bake flax a little bit because it kills a certain negative element. I forgot what it is. It's like, it has like cyanide or something crazy in it. But the heat disables it, and heat does not damage the omega-6s or omega-3s. Also read some cool studies about just omega-6s are more... So your cellular membranes are composed largely of fatty acids, and the type of fatty acids changes their ability to communicate. Like the fluidity and ease that energy and materials can move in and out of the cells. And the way that the membrane senses things directly communicates to the nuclei or the DNA, and that alters your DNA. So really, it's almost like your membrane is your brain. That's the thing that's sensing and changing your genetic expression. So just a couple cool studies I found on omega-6s is that basically the faster the animal, the higher omega-6 content they have in their membranes. And also in diving mammals that go underwater for extended periods of time, they have higher percentage of omega-6s, or namely linoleic acid, in their membranes. So basically I think they're more oxidatively efficient. They use less energy and seem to produce energy more efficiently. So I'm following that right now in my own experience, in my own experiments. Omega-6s, linoleic acid. So I think a lot of the bad rap omega-6s get is if you eat a lot of high or animal products, you get, it's like archaic acid, arachidonic acid, AA is what it is, which is our bodies also produce with linoleic acid. It's a different form of omega-6, and that will collect in the body over time, and if that composes the membranes, it's not as efficient of a fat to be composing your membranes with. Your membranes are basically proportional to the fatty acid ingestion in your diet, from what I understand. And so the omega-6 that we get from animal fats is not as beneficial as the omega-6 we get from, like I'm getting mine from sunflower or flax or hemp seed, soy also. So very fascinating stuff, omegas. And I've raised my calories up to around 2,000, hoping to heal faster because I want to train and it's difficult. I get a lot of good chemicals from training. It's a necessary element for my happiness. That's just been a part of me, and I bet you it's the same in all humans. If you're not addicted to training and exercise yet, this is what I say to the people I train: just do it long enough to get addicted to the chemicals. It takes about 3 weeks, I think, of consistent training, and you will crave it, you will need it. So if you can just get up enough discipline to get through 3 weeks, you'll eventually be addicted. And it feels good. It's absolutely necessary, actually, to happiness in my reality. So, gotta share that. Fascinating world. My meditation's been a little slack. Recently I've been a lot more into prayer, conscious thought. I read one quote that said, when asceticism is increased, prayer must also increase. So this is just conscious awareness of our actions. Learning to use our mind consciously, because once we go into these ascetic realms, when all of these tapas or the dross, the darkness is being burned out, it can lead us in not the best directions. We have to stay clear while we're going through those purification processes. So the prayer and the meditation are key. Yeah, endless, so much stuff. Anyways, I want to definitely would like to make these more consistently because it fuels me to share, and the communication, the community that we have now, it's extremely valuable to me. So your questions are extremely appreciated, and I think that's good right now for a catch-up. You know, I'm going to focus and try to get more clear on different elements, specifics that I want to share. Like I said, let your questions direct the videos, and yeah, thanks for all the support, guys, even through all this. Some pretty crazy trials I've been going through. Just having the comments and connections and communications have been awesome. That is a key element. Like, surround yourself with the right people. If there's somebody in your community you're like, man, how's that guy do it? Like, approach him, become his friend, see what you can give to him and contribute to him, and build up a community like that, and it will accelerate you. It's necessary. Also, saturate yourself in the right information. If you've never heard of impact theory, it's Tom Bilyeu's YouTube page. He's kind of like Tim Ferriss. He interviews some of the most potent, powerful humans on the planet and just asks the right questions to get at the source of, like, how are you doing this? What's your method? What's your protocol? And it's extremely educational. Reading the right books, just continuing to saturate yourself in good information. Watch out where you go on the internet. Don't get dragged into all that crap that is an endless purgatory, but find the right channels that direct you to the right information, that keep your mind and your thoughts on the most beneficial aspects of life. Yeah, whew, at least that's potent for me. That's all I gotta say. Awesome, lots of love and aloha to you guys. Do my best to keep sharing, and see you soon. Aloha.